Hey everybody, welcome to the Sim Hangar. My name's Mark and let's get started. For you general aviation pilots out there, and for those looking for a vernier style throttle quadrant, well, there's very little available at the affordable end of the market at the moment. Well, Authentikit may be about to change all that. They've come out with a self-build kit designed and expertly modelled on A2A's Comanche 250, but it offers a number of configurable options making it suitable for general aviation. Late last year I showed the first prototype. I'll leave a link to that video in the notes below, and I'm pleased to say I've got the final product in my hands. It's been developed with a full cooperation from A2A Simulations, and this is really a first for Authentikit in offering a complete package. Buy the kit, assemble it, and you're good to go. Of course, those with 3D printers, all the files are available as freeware to be downloaded. But if you don't have a 3D printer or don't want the hassle, then Authentikit are offering the complete kit on a trial basis. And this is what you get: a throttle quadrant that is surprisingly robust, as well as the Authentikit hub, allowing multiple Authentikit devices being connected and using only one USB. The founder of Authentikit, Phil, says there's more coming, including magnetos and starter switch, as well as a 3-way gear switch, again modelled on the Comanche 250. Let's start by trying it out on the Comanche, as this was the inspiration for the throttle quadrant in the first place. And we're here in Microsoft Flight Simulator on the runway at Sedona, one of my favourite locations in the sim. Once assembled, you need to calibrate in Windows, configure in Microsoft Flight Simulator, details on that later in the video, and you're ready to get up and go. So let's jump into the cockpit and take a closer look. This add-on from A2A Simulations is one of the best modelled GA aircraft in the sim. It goes without saying, we'll focus on the throttle quadrant. Let's start with the parking brake, currently on, push it and parking brake is off. Now to re-engage the parking brakes on the Comanche, we need to press the brakes and pull the lever out, and parking brake is on. There's a nice firm feel to it and a clearly defined click or position for both on and off. Now let's try the throttle, and one thing you'll notice and may well surprise you, and it applies to all the axes here, is the high resolution. Just tiny adjustments of the axes will register in the sim, and the benefits of the Hall effect sensors for each axis is clearly obvious. This high level of resolution is enhanced by the use of dampeners on each of the axes. This creates a real friction or tension, and just helps you dial that in exactly as you want. This unit has been well designed and is a sturdy build, and there's next to no play at all on any of the levers. Now Authentikit have a reputation for producing high quality kit, but I'd go so far as to say this is their best quality that I've seen to date. And again, as it's a self-build kit and very modular in construction, any repairs required or maintenance is fairly quickly and easily achieved. What you may also have noticed by now is that it's an under-desk mount, held in place by two unobtrusive C-clamps. It makes the positioning of the throttle quadrant very close to the real thing. Whilst this unit is designed with a Comanche 250 in mind, you can of course configure it for other aircraft, and to demonstrate this I've chosen the trusty Cessna 152, as it doesn't have a prop lever, and taking advantage of the spare lever for carb heat. First of all, let's just test the parking brake off, parking brake on. No need to press the brakes in this instance, and you can see my change configuration in the small inset. Many of us may have experimented with 3D printed parts in the past and been disappointed as they're not really robust enough to stand up to the daily wear and tear. All I can say in this instance is I'm pretty sure that's not going to apply here. This genuinely feels like quality, and when you have a look at the construction, which we'll do shortly, we'll see why. I've modelled carb heat to the one axis. In Microsoft Flight Simulator, unfortunately there's no access for carb heat. Config is anti-ice, it's simply an on and off, but it's still relatively realistic, and I can activate carb heat as and when I want to. Would be nice to have a more traditionally styled mixture lever for use with other GA aircraft. To be honest, DIY is not really my thing, and it's easy to be put off by the self-assembly part. However, just about all the tooling required is supplied with the kit. You can download a step-by-step written instructions, as well as a very useful video created by Phil that'll take you through the whole assembly process. And it's not as difficult as you may think it is. The complete kits are not supplied by Authentikit, but through their partners SKS. Links to both Authentikit and SKS in the notes below. And when you're done, this is what you'll get. You'll have your 3-axis throttle quadrant with parking brake, the Authentikit hub, cable to connect the throttle quadrant to the hub, which can accommodate multiple peripherals, a USB cable from the hub to your PC, and 2 clamps, as well as the carb heat knob. What follows is a very short extract of the unit as I assembled it. This is how you'll receive the kit. And for clarity, if you do want to order it, you have to order it via SKS, not Authentikit. And this is the first time they've offered a unit with all the parts pre-printed. I'm probably showing my age here, but it reminds me something like a Meccano kit. Do you remember Meccano? Confessions in the comments below. 3D printing technology is moving forward very quickly, and I must say the quality of finish is very good indeed. Also linked below will be the full assembly video from Phil, the founder of Authentikit. So if you want to know more, you can. I mentioned earlier it comes with all the tools you need, including a wire stripper, as well as a 3D printed screwdriver head holder with both a P1 and P2 head supplied. The only other tools that you may need that'll be helpful will be a ruler, small flathead screwdriver, and a pair of scissors. This is designed to be assembled on your kitchen tabletop, as it were, which is exactly what I'm doing. My only comment being that at the beginning of the tutorial or assembly video from Phil, he may mention it'll take you just over an hour. That may well be the case for those more skilled at this sort of thing. But following step by step, it took me something like 3 hours or so to fully assemble it. So if you are going to take this on, leave yourself an afternoon free to get it done. This here is the assembly of the Hall effect sensor, of which there are obviously 3 in the kit, as well as the friction dampener, which is this unit here. Now I must say it works very well indeed, as well as 2 bearings on either side to allow smooth travel within the assembly. There's a lot of steps, but assembly is fairly basic. The biggest challenge I found was crimping these small ferrules or olives onto the wires to hold them fast. Make sure you give yourself enough light, as this was the only aspect I found to be particularly challenging in the assembly. As you move from step to step in the assembly, one thing will become clear, and that is just how much thought has gone into the design of the various items. Things tend to fit together very well, and that's the levers finally assembled, and we can now move on to installing these into the main housing unit, which you can see here. This is obviously the mixture. 2 cross rails have been installed to hold it firm, and the movement of both the dampener and the Hall effect sensor movement along a toothed ridge allows for very accurate calibration, and as I mentioned previously, the Hall effect sensors give it great resolution. I've never assembled a multi-axis unit before, and I found it really quite interesting. We're now getting fairly advanced in the assembly and now trying to sort out all the wires. There are channels to feed the wiring through, which is very helpful and keeps them out of the way of the moving parts. I'm now at the stage where I'm completing the assembly of the throttle quadrant itself, just fastening the top cover, and we're done. Once that's completed, we can move on to assemble the hub, which thankfully is a much simpler and easier assembly. But before doing so, just take a moment to enjoy the friction and feel of those axes. You get a great sense of satisfaction when you're done. The Authentikit hub can accommodate up to 10 different Authentikit peripherals. The benefit, of course, is that it only takes up 1 USB on your system. This whole assembly only took me about 20 minutes or so. The key is getting the wires in the right order, really, and you're done. Once you've completed the assembly, it's a matter of going into Windows, check all axes are working, and calibrating each axis. The nice thing is when you're in Devices and Printers, it'll be identified as Authentikit. I've assembled it here to suit the Comanche 250, but of course you could change that to suit yourself, as demonstrated earlier in the video. The configuration within Microsoft Flight Simulator is fairly straightforward. Again, this is for the Comanche 250. I've configured the mixture, prop and throttle axis of course, as well as the brake. Note when setting the brake it's set parking brake and not toggle. Well, I think this is a great innovation from Authentikit, and it's nice for once to see them step away from the warbirds. Price-wise, I think it's in the ballpark, especially when you consider the most expensive component is actually in the hub, and of course the hub would be a one-time purchase. And that's about it. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you found it useful and informative. Stay well, look after yourselves. I'll see you all again very soon, and ciao for now.